I've always believed that global success can be achieved from any pocket of the world. Being here in rural Cape Breton throughout the pandemic has proven this, not just for myself, but for entrepreneurs everywhere who've adapted and found opportunities in spite of significant challenges. So many people have inspired me throughout my career and continue to every day, from small business owners to international leaders. People across our country are taking risks and betting on themselves in pursuit of their passions. I'm launching these platforms to spark conversations about what it takes to succeed in business and life. If you want to stay connected, inspired, follow along. Today, I'm speaking with one of the most dynamic leaders in North America. Ikdeep Singh is an accomplished business leader with over 2 decades of global experience in the consumer goods industry. He is known as a purpose-driven leader with a track record of consistently delivering sustained and superior results. In 2020, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, Ikdeep made the decision to accept the position as the regional president for Mars Petcare North America and relocate his family from the high rises of New York to a new life in Franklin, Tennessee. And there has been no looking back since that time. Prior to joining Mars, Ikdeep served as president with L'Oreal Group, where over a period of 6 years, he led large and complex brand portfolios in North America. Recently, Ikdeep has been included in the inaugural Forbes CEO Next list, which highlights 50 individuals that stand on the cusp of running America's most influential and respected companies. In today's episode, we'll dive into the power of place, family, leadership, business, and what makes him excited about the future. We'll also talk a little about Ikdeep's passions outside of work and his strong connections to Cape Breton Island. This episode will spark a light inside all of us to be reminded about the importance of staying close to our roots and the importance of betting on ourselves. So, Ikdeep Singh, what a thrill it is to have you sit on this couch with me today. Wow, and enjoy and spend some time with you on this podcast that we're calling Bet on Me. It's really, you have such a cool story. You are one of the great purpose-driven leaders in the world in terms of how you drive business and your experience. And I love the connections that you have to Cape Breton. So let's talk a little bit about your background. How did you get connected to Cape Breton in the first place? Tell us a little bit of your story, Ikdeep.
Sure.
Not everybody knows the story of Ikdeep Singh.
Well, thank you so much, Annette. First, let me just start off by saying what an honor it is to be sitting on this couch with you and talking with you. I've just heard nothing but amazing things about your story and your legacy, so I really consider it an honor to be sitting with you.
Thank you.
My story is, I guess, a typical immigrant story. One which had its roots in India. I was born and raised in India. My dad was a mining engineer. I have a family of, I have 2 siblings, 2 sisters. One sister, Harman Singh, she actually got married to somebody in Sydney, in Nova Scotia. And that was, I think, in the year 1992. And in 1994, I graduated from high school and I decided to come to Canada to study engineering.
Yep.
And UCCB, University College of Cape Breton.
Yes, that's right.
What it was called at the time. They had a 2-year engineering diploma program, which then fed into the Dalhousie University, Tons.
Yep.
Technical
And it's a
University
very
of
good
Scotia.
program at the university. The engineering programs are very strong, very strong. Yeah, I'm the chancellor, so I can brag about this.
It is, and thank you so much for supporting it. But it's really, so that's kind of like what I applied and I got in, and I came here in 1994 to pursue an engineering diploma.
Yeah.
And really I fell in love with the with the island, the people. I came here, it was the first time out of home. I had never lived outside of my house.
Wow.
I was a pampered boy living with my parents, and being international student, living by yourself, taught me a lot.
Yes.
I made a lot of friendships. I got introduced to the term BYOB, bring your own beer. And so my first couple of house parties, and like just how kind and welcoming the people were, and they were just curious. So where are you from? Tell me more about And in general, I made so many friendships until date. It's close to 27 years now.
Wow.
They're some of my best friends, and I come back here every year for sure. And now it's become a home for us because my sister is now here for the last 30 years or so. My parents also moved here about 20 years ago.
Your sister Harmon is an amazing woman too. She runs the Ability Center, does she not, here at the in Sydney? An amazing woman. And also then tell us a little bit about your parents are here too. How did that transpire?
Well, so I came and I kind of did my 2 years engineering diploma. Then I went to Dalhousie and I finished my engineering. At the time, my sister, unfortunately, was going through a divorce in her first marriage, and she had 2 young kids. Natasha, who was, I want to say, about 3 years old at the time, and Rohit, her son, was about a couple of months old. And going through a divorce was a very tumultuous, event, and she needed a lot of support. So I remember flying back from Toronto, where I had my first job with Procter & Gamble, but I would fly back every week or so.
What a good brother. What a good brother.
Yeah, well, she's been an amazing sister to me. So, you have to kind of be together when you need each other, and that's kind of like how we are. And we would do that, and through the process, then my mom also came to help.
Yes.
Because, she had a job, she was going through a divorce, the kids were at home, how would you manage it all? So my mom came and stayed for about 2 years just to help Harmon out. And then, it became more and more obvious, I wanted to stay back in Canada or this part of the world. My dad's business wasn't doing that amazingly well that it required me to go back.
And the plan was for you to eventually run the business, wasn't it? So that was something quite significant to give up, wasn't it?
It was, but, truth be told, it wasn't doing too well. It was actually not flourishing, and actually it gave me some freedom.
Good.
Because had I not had that freedom, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so in a way, it was a blessing in disguise. My parents then, I was going to stay here. My sister was going to stay here. We needed them here. So they kind of made a sacrifice as well, where they said, we'll be with our kids, help them out. So my mom came, we applied for permanent residency in Canada for them. And now they've been here 20 odd years.
Isn't that great?
25, 27 years. They first stayed with my sister. So my sister built a bigger house. They stayed together till the time the kids were almost going to college. And then when the kids kind of went to college, my sister got remarried again. So we built another house just next door, close by.
Nice.
And so now, my sister lives, my parents live, and my niece also has a house. So we are all in the same community.
Isn't that wonderful?
So it's very nice to come home.
Yeah, very strong family ties, great values. And, that was the basis for a lot of the success in your career so far. Tell us about that journey. Tell us about, you have amazing accomplishments now that you're running the Mars Petcare and company, but which is a gigantic company. But tell us a little bit about your journey. You started with P&G, I think.
Yeah, so, what happened was when I was at Dow, I went through a co-op program. And in the co-op program, I worked at many different industrial engineering rotations. So I worked with a paper mill in Hansport, Nova Scotia. Then I worked at Michelin Tires in the same Annapolis Valley area. And then I went to a company called JDS Vitel, JDS Uniphase. And then I went to Nortel Networks. So my career was always in the engineering side of things. And by luck, what happened was Procter & Gamble came to campus and they said, well, we are looking for students to come and join a management rotation program. And I was like, wow, isn't that something? But what are the chances of P&G hiring somebody like me? And I applied, and I was one out of, I don't know how many thousand people who applied who got in.
Well, good for you.
And all it was because they saw somebody who had leadership potential. Because I really didn't have much when I came here, and I kept betting on me, myself.
Exactly.
And taking each opportunity, any small job, any opportunity, and just doing my best.
Absolutely.
At it. And through that, building a track record of just exceptional work wherever I went.
Yeah. Exceptional and hard work, right? I mean, look,
of course.
My career has been, people say, how'd you do it? A hell of a lot of hard work, right? Really hard work. But you have a great attitude, and you're also an inspirational leader. You can see that. So it's really cool that P&G saw that at the very, very beginnings. Huh? So how long were you at P&G?
I was there for 14 years.
Were you really?
Yeah. So I joined in Canada.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that was that long.
Yeah, Canada in Toronto, and then I was moved to Cincinnati, their global headquarters.
Yes.
Then I worked with them in London, UK, Germany, Taiwan, and then China.
And did you live in all those markets? Yeah.
Yes, I was in China for 5 years.
I was in China for 3, but back and forth. But it's fascinating, isn't it?
I lived in Guangzhou.
Yeah, did you really? Yeah. Wow, I was mostly in Beijing and Shanghai. But wow, what an experience! And living in all those, and the broadness of your perspective, your global perspective is enormous. Huh? And so that was a great, liftoff to your next job. Was next job L'Oreal?
L'Oreal, yeah. No, actually, to your point, I would say I have so much to thank P&G for. It probably is the most formative. Like, I'm a marketer, brand builder, and a business leader, and engineering school didn't teach me that. So P&G kind of took a bet on me.
Yeah.
And then through that, I was able to kind of just learn through a lot of great managers, people, and I've failed so many times. I made mistakes. Yeah. But it was just the kindness and just the giving nature of my managers and people who kept investing in me and taking bets. And eventually I was able to kind of really learn.
Was it tough to leave?
Very tough.
Yeah.
It was very, in a lot of big companies, expatriation it's a kind of a difficult thing. They send you out because you're one of the top talents.
Yes.
And they give you all these assignments to go outside. But once you go outside,
you lose touch.
Out of sight, out of mind, right? So then what happens is, it's great that he did all this stuff in China.
Yeah.
But what about in North America? Because this is the big, tough market. What are you going to do here? And there are a lot of people who haven't left North America, and they're also in the line.
Yes.
And so what happened was, I was there for 5 years, and the business was doing really well. And I wanted to come back. My dad had a heart attack. Yeah. He was 78 or something at the time. And I was dating Cathy for a while, my wife now.
Yes.
And we wanted to have kids. We wanted to be with family.
Yeah.
And P&G was going through a downsizing, and there wasn't a lot of top jobs in North America available because they were kind of streamlining that.
Yes.
And as a result of that, I kept waiting. And I was in a lot of industry panels and boards and stuff. And L'Oreal was there.
Yeah.
And they would be like, you're so entrepreneurial, why don't you come? Yeah. They would see the results and they'd be like, wouldn't it be nice to have? Yeah. So they were kind of like, what would need to be true?
Yes.
And I said, I would love to go back and be with my family in Canada.
Yes.
They said, done. And so that's how they got me.
That's how they got it.
And then I came to Montreal. I was running L'Oreal Canada.
Yeah, that was their head office.
That's right.
So you ran L'Oreal Canada first?
L'Oreal Consumer Goods. So so they have 4 divisions.
Right.
Consumer Goods is 50% of the business.
Right.
It's the biggest one.
Yep.
It owns brands like L'Oreal Paris, Maybelline, Garnier, Essie, all those things.
Yeah.
So I was the head of that.
Wow, that's neat. So in between all of this, let's talk about Cathy.
Yeah.
Okay, how did you meet Cathy?
So Cathy, I was going to business school. So in between, when I was at P&G, when I moved to Cincinnati, I was accepted to business school in Boston, and I was going to leave to go to full-time business school. And P&G came and said, you have too much momentum on your side. Why do you want to leave? If you love brand building, you're going to leave and come back. I'm like, yeah, I love brand building.
Yeah.
I don't want to do finance or consulting. So they were like, well, why don't you stay and we'll pay for your MBA.
Yeah.
So they paid for my MBA to go to a business school in Philadelphia. So I was doing that, and in that, my course mate was this guy, David Huang. When I moved to Taiwan, he got married to a girl from Taiwan. So he came to Taiwan.
Okay.
And in that wedding, the girl's best friend was Cathy. So that's how we met.
Isn't that
And
neat?
Cathy was always this, super driven, always in a rush, but very intelligent for sure. She worked 15 years at McKinsey. She just gave it up this year.
Did she really?
But she's a brilliant person. Very just the zest for life and just going and doing things. And I was this other guy who was like, I was always busy trying to just get my job done and everything else.
Yeah.
And so, it was just, we formed an instant friendship. She was dating somebody else at the time. I was dating somebody else. But then we started dating each other within a year or so.
Wow.
And now it's been, I would say, about 15 years.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
That's
We have
so
2
important
kids.
to have the right mate, huh?
Yeah.
When you're working so hard and loving it. So I love this story. So let's go back to your career. You're at L'Oreal for how many years?
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
And then another big move.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was at L'Oreal. I was in Canada for about 2 years. Then they moved me to the US, where they gave me the biggest portfolio in the world to run. I did that for about 2 years. And then it was time, what else do you do? And I said, well, let me try and do something in luxury business unit. So they gave me Giorgio Armani, which is their Chanel.
Yeah.
And it was probably the wrong time because the pandemic hit and the luxury market collapsed,
Wow.
right?
Yes, it did.
And
Enormously.
And everything shifted online. So we had to shift everything to D2C and digital marketing, everything else. So I learned a lot through that.
Yes.
And it was really, I was having a lot of fun. And boy, I loved L'Oreal. It was a phenomenal company.
Great company, yeah.
And then somehow I wasn't looking, but Mars, a headhunter came and they said, well, Mars is looking for a president for North America. And I was like, really? And I went and talked to Cathy because I wasn't looking. I was in New York, very happy. Cathy loves New York. And Cathy said, I have served Mars as a consultant. She had served Mars for about 6 years in China.
Yeah.
And she said, it is the best consumer goods company.
Yeah.
If you can, and not because it's just the way they treat people.
It's a culture of...
It's a culture. It's like, it's just a...
They play the long-term game, right? So,
it's a privately held company. They're building for generations to come.
They are.
And the quality of people you'll meet. And if you can get in,
yes,
I will leave New York. I was like, really? That's a big thing for you to say.
Wow.
And so, I went through that journey, and it wasn't an easy process. It was 11 interviews, psychometric tests, a lot of references, but they picked me.
Wow.
And I consider it an honor, but honestly, it's a phenomenal place to be.
It is, yeah. Everything I read about it, and a private company does have its advantages.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about the next quarter all the time. They take a longer term perspective, and I love their sustainability and their approach to really the focus on the customer and the level of service and the level of quality in their product. And you now run an organization that has amazing brand names. CESAR is one, IAMS is another.
PEDIGREE, SHEBA.
Amazing names. And in this pet industry, you went into this industry. The pandemic did tough things on some areas, but wonderful things in others. And I would think that the whole pet industry went through the roof during the pandemic.
Yeah, well, I think first I would just say, pandemic overall is a human tragedy.
It is.
3 million people dead. So
terrible.
And we still haven't gotten out of it totally. With a lot of countries still facing a lot of pains, I would say. And yes, what has happened is as people have stayed at home, pets do help with loneliness.
Yeah.
And companionship is called out as the #1 reason for pet adoption.
Yes.
And pet adoptions have increased.
Yes.
There's also a humanization of pets happening. Like, in probably our parents' generation, the pets or dogs used to be in the backyard.
Yes. Yeah.
And now with the millennials, they're in their bedroom, sleeping on their beds.
Exactly.
And with them, what you eat. So
Yes.
if you eat vegan food, you
Yes.
want to feed them vegan food.
That's right.
So there's a little bit of that phenomena happening. And through that, there's an increase in pet adoption.
Yes.
And an increase in the quality of calories being given to pets as well.
So didn't you also develop an online adoption program?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
like some of the things that you have been doing is quite phenomenal. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I think, there's a couple of things. With pet adoptions going up, with the pandemic happening, there's a few things that we are concerned about. The first thing is, in the pandemic, you can see a big surge in pet adoptions, but we've also seen when there's a crisis, or when people will return to work, what if there's abandonment?
Yes.
Pet shelters will start filling up.
Yes.
So we have a purpose-driven program, which we actually say we actually want to end pet homelessness.
Yes.
So we actually partner with shelters. And the shelters were kind of closed through the pandemic, a lot of them.
Yeah.
So we actually said, why don't we do a digital Zoom version of it, where you can actually start helping pet adoption through Zoom.
Yeah.
So in the last year, we actually helped 200,000 pets get adopted through Zoom sessions.
It's wonderful.
And the same thing's happening now, like with return to work, a lot of, pet parents will have to go back to work, and offices don't accept pets.
Yeah.
When parents want to go to shopping, pets are not welcome everywhere.
Yeah.
So we have a whole program called Better Cities for Pets, where we're actually working with companies, with offices, with retail shops, with apartment buildings, because when people change apartments, a lot of apartments are not pet friendly.
Yeah.
And there could be abandonment issues created by that.
Yeah,
So our job as a pet care company is to make the world a better place for pets. It's not just about, of course it's about pet food, giving the best food.
Yeah.
But it's about also
It's a bigger
making sure.
purpose driven.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I think people are looking for that. People will choose companies, Ikdeep, for the purpose-driven focus.
Yeah.
I really believe that. And I describe my company as one run for profit and purpose, or purpose and profit.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't have that combination of taking care and looking at all stakeholders, I think you're going to lose in the long run. And a private company has more capacity to do that.
Yeah.
How cool is that? So I love this story. I love that you keep coming back to Cape Breton. I do too. I left Cape Breton in 1986. Mm-hmm. And I come back on average about 8 times a year.
Wow.
So this pandemic has allowed me to spend 16 months here. I have hired 3 or 4 people during that time, haven't even met them, but we're on Teams and we're on Zoom and we're on constantly connected that way. But tell us can you tell me a little bit about how you have managed through this pandemic? You weren't here last year, were you?
Yeah.
You didn't get to visit your parents?
No.
And that was hard, huh?
Yeah, my dad, he's now 84.
Yeah.
Not seeing your parents, for them not seeing their grandkids.
Yes.
My son was born about 2 years ago.
Was he? Okay.
And when he was about 3 or 4 months old, we spent the Christmas together in Florida.
Yes.
And after that, the borders have been locked.
Yes.
And so it's been, for them not seeing their grandkids. For me, with aging parents, there's always a stress of like, what if, and you want to be there. So we've been using FaceTime and Zoom a lot, and having calls and doing everything together to include them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I just came back after 2 years, and just seeing my dad, like, he loved golfing every day.
Yes.
But he's not anymore. Like,
No.
you can see the physical, like, we took him to Cabot to golf. He played 9 holes. It was good, but he can't do more.
Okay.
He's an avid gardener, and he loves his garden, but he can't bend anymore, So it's just aging that happens, and then how do you make sure that you look after and make sure that one of the main purposes I'm here for is just to make sure that their lifestyle can be now adapted to the next few years.
Next few years, absolutely.
Yeah.
No. And isn't this a nice place to come to?
It's heaven.
Do you see the place? One thing that I want to do in this podcast is tell Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, and quite frankly, the world, what a magnificent place this is. This is the most beautiful island in the world, right?
No.
And I know that you're a big golfer.
Yeah.
And I interviewed Ben Cohen-Dwyer, and he says, Oh, you love to play golf, and so
Yeah.
this is golf mecca,
Yeah.
isn't it? Huh? Like,
I think the island has so much.
Yeah.
Personally, you know, like I think just seeing the island, like I came here in 1994,
yes.
so it's now 26 years,
I left
27
in
years.
1996.
Okay, there you go. So 2 years.
That's when I left. 2 years later. Yeah.
And I'm so excited to see the development happening
Yes.
here. You know, I met Dave Dingwall
Yep.
2 years ago, and I know his vision for the island.
Yeah.
I since met also Irvin Simon.
Yes.
You know, he had bought the hockey team,
Yes.
then he bought the Cambridge Suites. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm now meeting you.
Yeah.
But I'm also like a lot of foreign students coming
Yes.
in. There's a huge influx of Indian students coming
Yes.
in.
Yeah.
And you know, I have a special place in my heart for specifically the Indian students coming in and how they're building. I'm seeing a lot of restaurants open up. I'm
Yes.
seeing a lot of companies, construction, the
Yes.
mechanics, and
Yeah.
there's all kinds of things happening. And I think, you know, there is an importance of population also growing. And I'm glad to see with the pandemic now, on the back end of it, there's actually an influx.
There is.
Of Canadians coming back from
Yeah.
who had left but coming back, but then there's also a new energy coming in
Yes.
of these students, and the Cape Breton University kind of creating an ecosystem,
Yes.
which is actually contributing back to the society and community.
Absolutely is. Absolutely is. And that is the draw. It
Yeah.
is the centerpiece, right, of the economic development opportunities. But there's also something that's happened here too. When I left Cape Breton, everybody was leaving. And the young people said, look, there's no opportunity here. I see that changing dramatically now. I see some of the pandemic has influenced that, but more importantly, over the last number of years, I am seeing a lot of growth here. Look, you know, just take a look around and take a look at the college being built, the cancer center being built at the regional hospital. The building that's going on here is phenomenal. But what's also happening is that they're entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
These kids are staying, they're wanting to stay. That, you know, it's really so exciting. And also, there's a whole group of wonderful young Cape Bretoners, like the people that is in this room with us right now, that really see the potential, that are very positive, have see the potential of this island through a lens that is absolutely so exciting and so superb, and that drive and that excitement, I think, will really take the island over the top. Sometimes, you know, we're self-critical, and we have this history of the mining industry and the steel plant industry, and there's a history, right? There's a history here that, but I think people are seeing that you can overcome. There's opportunity everywhere.
Yeah.
And I see it in the emerging markets and the emerging opportunities. I see it, you know, this as really an important element of the regrowth of this island. And there's so much, you know, the tourism industry has been hit hard, there's no question. But there are other industries that are really picking up. And I just think this is a wonderful place to live, and people are making those choices in terms of places to live.
I think, you know, your center, sustainability, I think that we are uniquely positioned.
Yes, we are.
Ocean, something to do with the ocean, ecology, or industries, anything to do with that, I think
it's natural resources.
Yeah.
It's a circular economy. You know that we have to give back what we're taking.
Yeah.
You know, like an average fish, we only use 40% of it. But the rest of that fish has all the protein. And so, you know, at the Reassurance Center, they are fermenting this stuff and producing other products, right? And so biorefining is becoming a big opportunity here. And people are coming to Cape Breton just to use that service and facility.
Amazing.
It's amazing stuff is happening here.
Yeah.
And I see it, you know, I see it everywhere. And so it is very encouraging. And I think that, you know, look, for those of you who, you know, are listening to this, I think this is one of the best places to live. This is part of me. This place is part of me. It's part of you too, huh? When you consider home.
Well, this is it, right? So for me, I'm a kind of a nomad.
Yeah.
I left India when I was 17, 18. Have moved and lived in 6, 7 countries now. And you know, there's a part of me which says that home is where your parents are.
Yeah.
And my sister is here. My three nieces and nephews are here.
Yep.
So for us, I have a house here.
Yep.
And I come here at least once a year.
Yeah.
I also am North America, so I have an opportunity to come by more often.
Yeah.
So when the pandemic is over,
Yeah.
hopefully I can come here more than that. But it's more than just, you know, there's a certain amount of calmness that I find and a belonging.
Yes.
I'm very proud to see what's happening in the island.
Yes.
Just even, you know, when I was here, there was only a Mayflower Mall,
Yeah.
and there was nothing else.
Yeah.
And over the years, things have developed.
Yeah. Yes, they have.
And I really feel like there are visionary leaders who are coming back.
Yeah.
There are people, like you said, the young. There's a new spirit.
Yes.
That is emerging, and I think if there's anything I would say is, you know, we need more of that.
Yeah.
And I'm always coming back and always thinking about what could I do one day, because I want to come back
Yeah.
and retire here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what would I do and what would I help with? And that's why it's so good to connect with people like yourself, with Dave and everybody else, because you all have a vision and you're trying to build something, and hopefully write a chapter in the islands that actually helps it become even better.
You know, this movement to the cities from rural areas is really interesting, but it's not working so well. I think people need to be able to be happy and to develop a living in their place. And so I'm just seeing this is a really exciting time, a really exciting opportunity. And you know, we're so lucky to have you. And when you're ready to retire here, you'll be kept busy. Don't you worry. There's a lot to do, but it's really an exciting place to be.
I think the shift to services, I mean, there's a lot in healthcare also happening here.
Yes,
a lot
there
of
is.
retirement communities building up. But I think in technology as well, I see a lot of new things happening. But I think there's a lot that's going to come this way, especially with this new shift towards hybrid working, remote working. I think Cape Breton, with its cost of living and just how gorgeous a place it is.
Oh gosh, it's stunning.
I think it's a hidden jewel right now.
It is. It is.
But I think it might be, the whole prices might be going up pretty fast.
So I just want to ask you, 5 years' time, 10 years' time, where are you going to be? What are you going to be doing?
You know, I would be the first one to tell you that whatever I've planned in life has never happened. So I would be overreaching to actually really say something specific. But what I would love to be doing is, I would love to be building great things with great people, and trying to make a positive difference in both the communities, the people I'm serving, and the businesses I'm trying to build, and all having that circular impact. And that's really, and if I can be a positive force in this world and using my skills for that. And more importantly, I think what is for sure is I want to raise my kids to become responsible citizens and being positive. So that to me is kind of like a big part of my life right now. My kids are very small, they're 6 and 2. So in the next 5 to 10 years, if I can kind of just focus on raising them to have a drive, a cause, and a passion, I think that's good.
I think that's great. And I love the way you said, the people I serve, because you're a servant leader. And you know, all my life I've been a servant leader, and the returns are much greater in the long run, in terms of returns to your well-being, to your happiness, to the success of your organization. And so I love your background, love your values, Ikdeep, and really, I'm just thrilled that you're staying connected to this beautiful island. And
well, you know, the piece on the people part is interesting. What I had a lot of in my years of growing up, I was trying to find what makes me happy, and the simple answer to that is just a sense of belonging.
Absolutely.
And the sense of belonging comes through people.
Yeah, it does.
And my leadership philosophy is one of leading through your heart. And caring and serving people, because you lead people, and the people build a business, right? And if everybody looks after the people, it's going to be all good.
That's right. So, I have always approached my my life that way, and and it's so obvious to me. It's so obvious, shareholders, yes, are important, but if you don't have a happy group of people working with you with an engaged attitude, you're not going to make it, right? And so, you represent a very modern leader. You represent I say today that people leave leaders. Because they see through people. They see through when your decisions are greedy or they're not seen to be fair. People leave. Yeah. And Mars is very smart to have hired you, because you are an amazing leader. Ikdeep Singh.
Well, thank you, but I honestly feel the other way around. I think I'm fortunate, and I really consider it a big honor to be working in a great company. And as I said, working with great people, doing great things, and Mars gives me that.
Yeah.
So, and it's got a purpose to it. We're making the world a better place for pets.
Yes.
So it's not just about profits.
Yeah.
Mars has a philosophy. We want to be a force for good in this world.
Yes.
So actually, the family does not look at success just through financial measures.
That's right.
There's actually a sustainability angle. There's a community angle.
Absolutely.
And that's what's fulfilling about the whole thing. So.
Yeah, because if you don't get those pieces right, it's not sustainable. And the world is telling us, climate change is telling us, it's time that we give back in different ways, and it's happening. So you are a very cool leader. We're really lucky to have you as part of our Cape Breton community, and just keep coming back. Keep and let your children see this life too, and share this with your family. And I know how generous you are to your family, and that's another wonderful attribute that you have.
And before we end, I want to just thank you, Annette, for being a role model, for being such an amazing leader and a citizen of Cape Breton. It's just people like you who inspire every one of us to kind of do our bit to make this island even more beautiful and more prosperous. So I really want to thank you, and it's been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much.